Ooh, you hear that? That sounds like it's time for some hemp news.
Hemp news?
Welcome back to another episode of News by the Gram, YouTube's favorite news show for all hemp and cannabis related topics. You know what else that alarm means? That means this week we're getting heavy. Look at me. Look in my eyes. This week is our first installment of News by the Ounce, where we have a very in-depth discussion on a very particular topic,
Legislation.
On a federal level, the House passed the MORE Act in an attempt to federally legalize cannabis, again. And on the state level, a new bill was passed by the Tennessee House is changing the local Delta 8 game in a big way. So the federal government seems to be paying attention to all these gains as the House just passed the MORE Act again. I say again because it had been previously passed back in 2020, but it wasn't brought to the Senate floor for a vote. And though this is good news on the surface, looking at what else is being put through Congress right now, things start to fall apart a little bit. One of the many problems is that although it passed, only 3 Republicans voted in favor of it. And that's a problem because the Senate currently has Republican majority control. Sorry, stop the video, stop, sorry. I just, real quick, I gotta correct something that this moron just said. It is related to the American government, so it is confusing, I'll give him that. He said Republican majority control when there's actually Democratic majority control, but I totally see why he got confused. So the way that it is right now is there's 50 Republicans in the Senate, 48 Democrats, and 2 independents. Technically though, those 2 independents are registered under the Democratic caucus, which means that it is an even 50-50 split. Now when that happens, the vice president is the tie-breaking vote. And right now, our vice president is Democratic Kamala Harris, which means that based on that tie-breaking vote, the Senate majority control falls under the Democrats. Okay, back to the video. And if it only barely passed in the House, it's not looking good for a vote to pass in the Senate. And more problems arise the digger you deep, as the MORE Act is far from the only federal legalization legislature that is being proposed right now. Legalization legislature, that's hard to say. Say that 3 times fast.
Legalization legislature, legalization legislature, legalization legislature.
Oh, I almost applauded you. That was a good attempt though. You almost did it.
Speech impediment kicked in.
There's also Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's own personally authored legislation, which he initially planned to have formally filed by the end of April, but has very recently said that the official introduction of his bill will take place in the later months, as he says, before the August recess. Is that good? Is that bad for the MORE Act? It's really hard to say. Will the Senate be more likely to vote in favor of MORE because they don't want to wait any longer to have some kind of legalization legislation started? Or are they more likely to wait for the bills being presented by their majority leader? Or even are they likely to ignore both of these and go with one of the many other similar legislatures being proposed? Who the f*** knows? Let's just go through them real quick just so you know what it looks like when so many people have so many opinions on how to do a single thing. Of course, there's the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act. Its goal is to remove cannabis from being listed by the federal government as a controlled substance. This would allow states to be able to legalize it on whatever level they would like to without the fear of federal interference. But some of the best things about it, I know that's not even the best thing. Some of the best things about it is that it would set up a system to expunge and re-sentence people that have been convicted of nonviolent federal cannabis offenses. It will help promote ethnic diversity in the industry at a state level, and it will also do what California is already doing, which is fix some of the problems that occurred as a result of the war on drugs. There's also the SAFE Act, which is pretty much only focused on banking regulations as it related to banks that work with legal cannabis businesses, but it has a very niche focus and doesn't really cover a broad legalization on a federal level. And then there's also Schumer's bill, the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act, or CAOA, which looks great on the surface, but it's seemingly specifically reaching out to only Republican senators to, and I quote, see what they want in the legislation. Whoop, hold on. Sorry, one more correction, and it is based on the previous one. Because he was under the impression that Schumer was Republican because he was under the impression that there was Republican majority control. He thought that this was a bad thing. But it turns out Schumer's a Democrat, which means that this is actually a good thing because he's actually trying to do what he says here in a minute, and that is coming together with members of the other party to try to make a bill that is as bipartisan as possible. And that is such a good thing. It is exactly what he hoped for. Here in just about a minute, he'll explain all that to you. All right, back to the video. Sorry again. And along with these Hot Topic 3, there's currently over 1,000, yes, 1,000, 1, 3 zeros, over 1,000 cannabis, psychedelic, and drug policy bills in state legislatures and Congress from this year alone. That's a lot of legislation. And let's face it, unless we get really lucky, the only way to get a bill that federally legalizes cannabis to pass is if some of these politicians grow the up and work together to create a bipartisan bill that does more than just inform comprehensive cannabis policy changes in the future. I take that from a quote from the new act that is being thrown out right now, the PREPARE Act, or the Preparing Regulators Effectively for a Post-Prohibition Adult Use Regulated Environment. I know, it's a mouthful, and I'll say it, I'm definitely not the first to say it, but we're prepared. We're ready. We want it. We've been prepared for years now. The only thing stopping federal legalization at this point is the fact that none of the parties will stop trying to one-up each other on legislation that is almost literally trying to do the exact same thing. Oh, they've got a bill ready that wants to do what our bill's gonna do. Shut it down! It seems like everyone wants to be the one to be able to take credit for it when it does happen. At this rate, if it does happen. And that brings us finally to what's been going on with Tennessee legislation. Big topic in local news currently is Delta 8. Although it's similar to Delta 9, which is the cannabinoid most associated with getting high. It's legal on a federal level and in many states, so it's not too difficult to find Delta 8 products at the moment. Now, after being on the market for a while, Tennessee wants to set up some regulations for it. At least, some do. Last month, 2 bills were proposed in the Tennessee House. One wanted to implement regulation of Delta 8 products controlled by the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, while the other would have effectively eliminated all Delta 8 products across the state. The first bill, HB 1690, would have given regulatory control to the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, implemented a tax on wholesale products, and raised the purchasing age to 21. Sounds great, right?
Right.
Yeah, sounds good. That sounds good. I like that. Let's do it. But then the second bill, House Bill 1927, would prohibit any hemp-based products from being sold with THC contents over 0.3%. Even Delta 8, which would essentially equate federally legal Delta 8 products with federally illegal Delta 9 products. 1927 would also reclassify Delta 8 as weed. Ooh. Adding on criminal penalties for anyone in possession of it, including the growers that had been previously legally growing hemp for Delta 8. 1927, as it was originally written, would have had devastating financial effects on the state as well, causing a loss of an estimated $7 million in tax revenue. Yes, 7 million, 7 6 zeros, big number. 1690 would have had a positive financial impact due to the added tax. But sadly, 1690 died in the Senate Judiciary Committee, which allowed 1927 to move forward in the House, and sponsor of 1927, Representative Will Lamberth, has initially had some, let's call it divisive reasoning behind his pitch of the bill. He claims he's heard all kinds of tales and stories of children picking up improperly labeled, inspected, and managed Delta 8 products and end up in the emergency room due to high THC levels. First of all, Fine. There's definitely proof of Delta 8 products out there that do indeed exist that are most certainly misleading or improperly labeled or don't have proper warnings and age restrictions, etc., all not posted on their labeling. That is, however, most certainly not the case with everyone. A few things. Rather than completely ban a thing because a few companies out there are cutting corners and not properly checking customer IDs or whatever bad business practices they're guilty of, maybe just punish the select few that are guilty of these poor practices, maybe, or hey, what about the parents? You didn't think I'd go there, huh? But what about the parents? I can promise you that a curious kid isn't reading the label on a bottle of Daddy's gin to see if maybe they shouldn't take a sip. Since 1690 was dead, 1927 had the momentum to make it to the Criminal Justice Committee twice, luckily to discuss some amendments. The first meeting that they had on March 30th got a bit weird. Here, look at this.
The current definition says anything under 0.3% delta-9 THC. They're distinguishing the types of THC. This is what we're talking about. One molecule off. One tiny molecule shifted from delta-9 to delta-8. That's why, quite frankly, you have 115 people that are overdosing on this, is because it is extraordinarily high level. This is not a naturally derived substance from cannabis. It is not. I don't want somebody having a gotcha moment where an officer or any law enforcement agency would charge someone who thought they were selling a legal product and then all of a sudden, they're arrested on something. This needs to be a clear-cut line. We need to make sure this is absolutely not getting into the hands of children, because right now they sell it in gummy bears. And a child is not going to be able to tell the difference in a gummy bear. Now, I say that, neither is an adult. You can't look at a gummy bear and know that it has 100 milligrams of THC in it.
My name is John Kearns. I'm the co-founder and CEO of New Bloom Labs in Chattanooga. New Bloom Labs provides the chemical analysis of hemp and hemp-derived products for the purposes of legal compliance, quality control, and consumer safety. In short, my company exists to ensure that hemp products are sold with trustworthy labeling and are safe for human consumption. Our lab is ISO 17025 certified and registered with the DEA. Current policy leaves the hemp industry to police itself with no mechanisms for enforcement or to root out would-be bad actors. HB 1927 as amended means prohibition when all that's needed are reasonable guidelines. And I'm going to skip ahead and address a pervasive myth about delta-8 THC. And that myth is that labs cannot test this compound and decipher it from delta-9 THC, which, unlike other forms of THC, is a controlled substance. This is false. I understand the TBI lab has been on record saying that they can't see the difference between delta-8 and delta-9. Let me assure you that New Bloom Labs does this work every single day on thousands of delta-8 products every single week.
Hi, my name is Cole Ebel. I am the founder of Cumberland Cannabis Company. I used to work in the pharmaceutical industry mainly with corticosteroids. I share a lot of your concerns on delta-8, and I think many in the industry do share those concerns as far as labeling goes, packaging, things of that nature. And just as this gentleman said, we're just hitting it with a blunt object where we shouldn't be is all. We want to help. We want to make these safer. We don't want kids using these products. These THC products, they're saving lives. They are keeping people off of opioids. That is what a real overdose is an opioid overdose. That's where you can die. What they're calling these cannabis overdoses aren't overdoses. They're actually anxiety attacks.
What's strange is that the bill didn't cite a single specific case where a child was sent to the hospital or any other kind of medical facility due to any kind of harm having to do with delta-8 products. But luckily, not all is lost. It seems like Lambert has started to listen to industry professionals as well as the hemp community and is actually willing to add some more amendments, as they did on the meeting on April 13th. Here it is, right. I got it. One of my pockets. Ooh, here.
Members, as we've gone through this process over the last several weeks on this bill, I've heard from several members of the community and our fellow Tennesseans, hundreds of folks that have emailed, called, I've met with, and many of you have as well. And I appreciate that input and feedback. When we began this, my main question to folks was this: how do we make sure that Tennesseans are safe? With these products on the market, how are they regulated? How are quality controls done? How do we make sure that a child is not overdosing on a substance that looks like any other gummy bear that they've ever picked up in their life, and yet it is not? It is a very different substance. I've called many folks that have emailed me. I've called them on the way home late at night. I appreciate them taking my calls well after hours. But I've tried to listen and learn as to what exactly these different substances are. How can they be utilized properly and not put people in danger? So this amendment does, I believe, just that. Right off the top, it says that these products are only going to be sold to those that are over 21 years of age. It will put an appropriate tax on it. It is a a mild registration fee for those that want to be licensed to sell this product. It will have packaging requirements, and those packages will include significant labeling so that folks know exactly what this is. It will require private testing from labs. We've heard testimony from labs that can do that. It doesn't have to be a state lab. In fact, the preference would be if the private market out there can do this, then why would we have a state lab that has to do this? They will have to hit very high standards, however. And in fact, most of these packages have QR codes where folks can actually scan that and get very detailed information on exactly what they are buying. It will have caps in the amount of THC that can be in these products. And it specifies very clearly that what we are regulating here, and heavily regulating as we should, are those THC elements that are psychoactive, that can potentially have an effect on someone's central nervous system, that can create a high, quite frankly, and might not in some products and might in others. And there are a vast number of products that are out there, and we're specifically trying to stay away from those products that have none of those psychoactive elements in it. And you can see on page 2 of the amendment that is laid out. And that's what you've heard in the past, and this is an oversimplification, but kind of CBD versus THC.
So now, ironically, 1927 is almost an exact copy of what was 1690. It adds regulations to be enforced by the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. It adds an additional tax onto the products. It raised the purchasing age to 21. Does any of this sound familiar? As well as a whole lot more licensing, testing, regulatory baselines, and requirements for labeling and marketing of the products. So, luckily what seemed like a death sentence for Delta 8 just a few weeks ago has been magically transformed into a blessing. Because ultimately, regulation is what we want in the industry, because it means that people can't put out sketchy products that ultimately end up giving legitimately run hemp businesses a bad name. And then bonus tax revenue for the state. Money, money, money. Things seem to be going in a very good direction on both federal and state levels, and let's hope that this means proper federal legalization is on the horizon. I don't see it yet. Still no. But it should be coming. It should be coming. I hope. Oh, pause the video. Sorry. One more time. Pause. Sorry. Hello. Me again. This guy, am I right? I will say he is damn good looking. Holy hell. Mwah. Anyway, sorry, I got distracted. So, there's been an update to the Delta 8 regulation bill. And the update is that it's dead. It is dead. It made it to the Senate, and on the day that they were going to vote on it, the sponsor for the bill didn't show up, which meant that they couldn't vote on it, which meant that now we're going to have to wait a whole nother year to try this whole process again in January. So pack it up, everybody. We'll try again next year. See you in January. That was the bill dying. That's exactly what that was. It just, woof. Yep, it's dead. So, oh well, we tried. Just guess we gotta try again next year. I'm tired. But anyway, enjoy the end of the video. Bye. And that's the way the news goes. Please don't sue me, Adult Swim. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and light up that bell. Pew, 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 pew. Pew.